I told you can't trust these. Now, Puffy done kill Tupac, man.
50 Cent went on stage last year and said this.
Maybe I said Puffy because he got Tupac.
You know, and I know, that everyone believes that Diddy was involved in both these shootings and had a direct involvement in your brother's death. That is what the streets have said for 27 years. That's why 50 Cent said it. That's why Eminem has said similar stuff. Would you be comfortable saying that you believe Diddy had nothing to do with it?
No, I wouldn't be comfortable saying that because I don't know. If you look at all the theories, the theory involving him is quite high on the list.
Ron, any comments? Any comments on the trial so far? Any opening statements?
He's having his day.
He's having his day?
He's having his day. We trust the justice system.
Thank you, sir.
God is good.
Netflix's latest Accuseries delivers a sharp, thought-provoking re-examination of Tupac Shakur's life and untimely death, cutting through noise to focus on context rather than accusations. Instead of pointing fingers, it dives into the pressures of the era, the charged cultural atmosphere, and the years of public speculation where industry figures like Diddy have frequently surfaced in discussion by revisiting unresolved questions and grounding them in historical reality. The series strengthens the narrative and offers viewers a deeper, more compelling perspective on one of hip-hop's most debated and enduring stories.
You know what the truth.
Yeah, check this out. We don't talk about things that are nonsense. We don't even entertain nonsense, my brother. So we're not even going to go there, with all due respect, but I appreciate you as a journalist asking. Thank you.
Because you listen, 7 years ago, I'd have been like, yo, did you hire somebody to kill Pac? But no, you do it like a journalist.
Yeah, no, I mean, we wouldn't even get into nonsense like that. You know what I'm saying?
Combs the Reckoning. The filmmakers chart Sean Diddy Combs' ascent to the top of hip-hop, zeroing in on the ambition and strategy that built his influence well before his recent legal troubles entered the spotlight. The series also revisits his complicated and increasingly strained relationship with Tupac Shakur, a dynamic Tupac's cousin William Lassane recalls as tense and deteriorating, all set against the explosive height of the East Coast-West Coast rivalry. Through first-hand interviews, the documentary captures the pressure, rivalry, and shifting loyalties that surrounded both icons, revealing how that divide intensified speculation and public debate for decades. Without claiming final answers, the series re-examines the events and unresolved questions leading up to Tupac's 1996 death in Las Vegas, making clear why this chapter of hip-hop history still carries weight and refuses to fade.
Former president of Bad Boy, Kirk Burroughs, who alleged during this time, Diddy had him hiring a whole bunch of people and getting cars to drive to Las Vegas. And he is now very curious into why Diddy wanted to do this. And he said, in his opinion, he now believes that Diddy was behind.
Williams speaks with striking honesty, describing the tension between the two artists as intense, personal, and long-standing. From his perspective, he suggests that Diddy may have felt challenged by Tupac's rising influence and fearless creative independence, a shift that altered the balance of power at the time. Rather than pointing fingers, William urges viewers to consider the wider atmosphere surrounding the 1994 New York shooting, an era defined by confusion, pressure, and limited information as events were unfolding in real time. He questions how clearly anyone truly understood what was happening in the moment. Echoing this view, music veteran Gene Deal has also reflected on the competitive weight between the two figures, indicating that the rivalry added strain to an already unstable period and intensified the tensions that shaped one of hip-hop's most turbulent chapters.
Tupac blueprint and changed Biggs and Bad Boy in image. I get around, talked about how fly you was, how many girls you mess with, how many cars you drive, how much money you got, what you willing to do. He took his image Pac was the first one on the scene wearing Versace shirts. He went and got the same Versace shirts Pac had. Which, alright, some dudes would do that. You would never catch me wearing something else, something that somebody else got. He was knocking down all the women that he thought Pac was knocking down. And what I mean is having sex with them. Why would you want to have sex with women you know for sure a dude that was once cool with you was dealing?
Alongside Williams, remarks Tupac's brother Mafra has made it clear that in his view, the circumstances surrounding Tupac's death still deserve a more serious, thorough re-examination. He argues that the conversation shouldn't stop at surface-level narratives, and instead calls for every angle to be reviewed with care, from the wider environment of the time to the network of people and decisions connected to that era. For Mopra, the goal isn't sensational claims, but a cleaner, fuller picture that cuts through decades of noise and brings the story closer to clarity and truth.
Saying that you want to see how serious the Vegas PD is going to take this case, because Keefe D is people that he name dropped that you want to see if they're going to investigate.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I'm curious to see how they plan to deal with the case, because he, in his own admissions, mentions other people. You know, are they going to say what happened to these people? Yes, Puffy being one of them. I don't know where that's going to lead, but I do believe there were accomplices, and I don't think all of them have been looked at. So, you know, because over the years, you know, it's a lot of years, you know, amongst the family, we talk, we want to figure it out too. We thinking certain things too. So, you know, we're waiting to see if we can trust this process. I feel like it's bigger because I haven't heard anything about that part of the story from the prosecutor's office. I haven't heard anything about Puffy from the prosecutor's office, even though Keefe D implicates him on these videos that they claim they're using to indict him. Even you got a Crip affiliate from somewhere, but you still not gonna talk about the guy that he mentions by name on the thing. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's exhausting. You know, or you know, I'm waiting to see how far they go, because that's what everybody's talking about. That's what everybody's talking about. What about Puffy? You know, so it would be weird that the prosecutor's office wouldn't know and address it. That's why I don't know whether to trust this shit or not.
He later revealed that in Tupac's final moments, his brother appeared determined to communicate something meaningful, as if he was struggling to get an important message out. That haunting memory has never left him, and it continues to fuel his resolve to seek clarity and understanding about what really happened, reinforcing why the unanswered questions surrounding Tupac's death still carry such emotional weight.
Because you got so many conflicting stories, right? You got some people that say that, you know, Tupac was moving in the hospital, he was, you know, talking in the hospital, but you being there, from your point of view, how was Tupac's condition?
By the time I got there, remember I was coming from LA, so by the time I got there, he had tubes in his throat, in his nose, in his mouth. So he ain't talk to me, not verbally. He was conscious. He was trying to talk. He did want to talk, but he didn't actually verbalize any words. I always, you know, that's gonna be one of the biggest mysteries in my life, because he was trying to tell me something. He was trying so hard. He was shaking the bed. He was looking at me, you know, with his big old eyes, you know, and I I know he was trying to tell me something, but I don't know.
Something else I want to ask you, because I think it would be appropriate before we get off the Vegas thing. Last thing, because I know I did an interview with Napoleon, and they all gave me their reasons why Afeni pulled the plug because of his condition. But I mean, it would be more appropriate since you was his brother. Afeni, her decision to pull the plug on him. From your point of view, what made her pull the plug? Respectfully,
because he had already flatlined a couple of times, and she didn't want him to keep going through that. So I think it was like twice before she, let him go. And that's reasonable. You know what I mean? When I was, when I found out,
Former Bad Boy executive Kirk Burroughs later acknowledged that the tension between Tupac and Diddy likely influenced the turmoil of that era more than he recognized at the time, a view William has echoed in hindsight. He recalls how their relationship grew increasingly strained as Diddy pushed Biggie's rapid rise, while Tupac carved out his own independent lane with ambitions that no longer aligned. From William's perspective, Diddy had once hoped for a closer creative bond with Tupac, but diverging paths turned that hope into competition, amplifying an already charged atmosphere. That pressure formed the backdrop to Tupac's 1994 visit to Quad Studios, where he was unexpectedly attacked and seriously injured, an incident that became a defining flashpoint in hip-hop history. Although Diddy, Biggie, and others were reportedly present in the building, authorities never connected them to the assault, and Diddy has consistently denied any involvement. Still, Tupac's later reflections, doubts, and emotions kept public debate alive, while Gene Deal has suggested the moment reflected the intense rivalries of the time. By presenting these conflicting perspectives, the series underscores how ambition, loyalty, and competition collided in the 1990s, shaping one of the most examined and debated chapters in music history.
Puffy knew Tupac was going to get robbed at Quad Studios?
Well, I don't think I'm not going to say he knew exactly he was going to get robbed, but he knew he was going to get dealt with. Because he was up there with Andre Harrell, and he was with Jimmy Henchman. And even though I think Pac may have owed Jimmy some money, or he was being disrespectful with Jimmy, and Jimmy ain't the type of dude that you was going to be disrespectful for, because he had some real wolves, and Jimmy was about it himself. You know what I mean? So now, in that essence, Puff is up there in the office with him. They know they about to deal with Pac. You know what I'm saying? I don't know the extent that Jimmy told him what they was going to do to Pac, or he's going to get dealt with or whatever like that. But I know Puff had a whip the wool.
Years later, in 2011, Dexter Isaac publicly claimed he was involved in the 1994 Quad Studios attack, alleging that he acted under direction from a music industry figure he said was connected at the time. His account added another complicated layer to an already tangled narrative. But like many claims tied to the incident, it has never been independently verified and remains part of a broader mix of recollections, accusations, and speculation. The episode highlights just how layered and fiercely disputed this moment in hip-hop history has become. Jimmy Henchman, meanwhile, has firmly denied any involvement, stating unequivocally that he had no connection to the Quad Studios incident, a denial that further reinforces how conflicting accounts and unanswered questions continue to cloud this chapter and keep the debate alive.
They know that he had another bracelet that was like a bicycle chain with charms on it. All right, Couldn't say that. All right, he had the diamond chain on with the chain with diamonds at each links going through it. Right, he had a big stone on the diamond ring and a smaller stone, one for 35,000 and the one for 20,000. All right, so even Stretch that did this shit, I took his bracelet too, and changed it and put his name, my man's name on it, and took off the name on it. So motherfuckers claiming that this even
so hold on, homie.
Claimed that he was Tupac's stepdaddy, wrote me and wanted me to have my people meet him and give him back the chain and shit, talking about some redemption shit. You know, them niggas ain't had it, man.
So hold on. Hey Dex. So that day that happened, November 30th, 1994, it wasn't just Tupac and Freddie Nichols. Stretch was with them too?
Stretch was with them too, yeah. Stretch set the whole shit up. He was in cahoots. He was giving us play-by-play where they was at. On their way there, he was in communication with Jimmy and shit. You know, Jimmy promised them two big eggs and shit.
Wow, so he sold Pac out for a quarter brick, basically.
Basically, yeah.
And
Killboy too.
Wow.
Jimmy Henchman has consistently and forcefully denied any involvement, maintaining that he had no connection whatsoever to the Quad Studios incident. His firm stance adds yet another layer to the web of conflicting narratives surrounding the event, underscoring how much of this chapter in hip-hop history remains unresolved, clouded by uncertainty, and fueled by ongoing public debate.
There was a big frame picture, photograph on one of your walls, and it had Tupac on it wearing a Henchman Entertainment t-shirt. Now, a few years ago, there was a guy named Dexter Isaac that came forward who claimed that you were connected to the Tupac shooting. Do you have anything to say about that?
No, 100%. I've never ducked from answering any Tupac questions, which I could understand if I don't know how Quad Studio morphed into, like I was in Vegas and was part of the shooters that actually ended in his demise. And let me say, me and Tupac were friends, and me and him were friends. I had nothing against Tupac. I liked him. He was younger than me. I'm sure that he looked up to me. There's many moments that me and Pac had that were very intimate, where he talked to me about things that he was afraid of, or things that he loved to do, and all of those kind of things. Here it is, you have a prosecutor and you have a guy who's in jail for life. When they pulled Dexter down to interview him in regards to what he knew about me and Tupac and so on and so forth, I have no doubt at this point that Dexter probably was the guy or one of the assailants on Tupac. But Dexter's story just doesn't make sense. Dexter tells a story that I wanted a ring for my fiance, and so I tell him to get the diamond ring from Tupac so I can give it to my fiance, and so on and so forth. He tells this magical story. The only person that can believe such a story is Todd Kaminsky, who was the prosecutor who was trying to make something out of nothing.
Keith D recalled being genuinely shaken by the escalating tensions, explaining that the feud surrounding Tupac intensified dramatically after the release of Hit 'Em Up. He described the atmosphere as volatile and unpredictable, where conversations were heavy with pressure and the stakes felt dangerously high. The documentary uses these first-hand reflections to underline just how fiercely competitive the hip-hop landscape had become at that moment, capturing the fear, rivalry, and instability that surrounded some of the genre's most powerful figures and pushed the culture into an increasingly combustible space.
To make it clear, man, when Puffy came to LA, you used to give him protection, right? From the Southside Crips, because he was scared of Suge Knight?
It speaks for itself, my brother. He was playing chess, and I guess we was playing checkers, cuz.
So he was really scared of Suge Knight like that, yo?
That's what it looked. That's what it sounded like, yeah.
Beyond the controversy tied to Tupac, Diddy has for years been surrounded by speculation connected to other high-profile moments in hip-hop, a reflection of the relentless public attention that's followed him throughout his career. The documentary explores how these circulating narratives, regardless of their accuracy, helped shape an era marked by tension, rivalry, and constant intrigue, showing how rumor and perception became powerful forces within an already competitive and pressure-filled culture.
Talk about that?
Yeah, so there's, let's say Keefe D claims that there is this ongoing conversation. It happens on 3 different occasions. But most specifically when he and Puffy are at this place called Greenblatt's Deli on Sunset. And they're there. Things have spiraled out of control. Puffy's really concerned about, the welfare of his safety. And he tells Keefe D, man, I just need you to take care of this situation with Suge and Tupac. It's out of control. Tupac's on vinyl talking about killing all of our kids when they grow up. And, it's just become this really serious conflict. And he says, I just need you to take care of him. And Keefe D's like, that's no problem. That's what we do. And so an agreement was made, according to Keefe D, for an amount of money. And they kind of just let it go at that point in time. But of course, Keefe D knows in the back of his mind, this is what Puffy wants done. And they all end up out in Las Vegas. Suge's out there.
Before you say that, there's a couple things I want to talk about in Vegas. So when you say that Keefe got offered an amount of money, according to him, was there a dollar amount?
Yeah, so there was a dollar amount. But I think that, the nuances of this conversation are that, like, now I'll give you $1 million, whatever it takes. It's like exaggerated speech. But of course, when we interview Keefe D, he's like, yeah, that's the agreement amount, was $1 million.
So according to Keefe, he's claiming that Puffy offered him $1 million to kill Suge or Tupac?
Both. Yeah, both their names came up. And according to Keefe D, he says, Tupac's put himself on the list while the talking that he was doing. But it was really about Suge because it was Suge's muscle.
Kirk Burroughs reflected on the strange and fragmented circumstances surrounding the night Tupac was shot, pointing to the group's separate travel arrangements to the Mike Tyson fight as an added complication in an already chaotic situation. The series also revisits Keefe D's recollections of what unfolded afterward, while clearly noting that Diddy has repeatedly denied any involvement and was never treated as a suspect by Las Vegas authorities. Stepping beyond the details of that single night, the documentary examines the deeper rivalries and pressures that define Tupac and Diddy's relationship, portraying a volatile mix of ambition, competition, and non-stop scrutiny that kept the hip-hop world on edge and continues to spark debate decades later.
That Diddy paid him $1 million to try to take out Tupac and Suge Knight. Investigators early on already zeroed in on Keefe D because he is the uncle of Orlando Anderson, who was the main suspect in Tupac's unaliving. During this time, they believe that Keefe D was also in Vegas, and this is things that we have heard him say over the years in his multiple interviews, and one reason why he's on trial for the unaliving of Tupac. But then investigators really started to get curious when they found out that Keefe D was at the Peterson Museum the night that Biggie was unalived. Back in 1997, at the height of this investigation, police actually raided Keefe D's house for gang activity, and they seized one of the vehicles that were at his house because it matched the Chevy Impala description of the person who drove away after Biggie was unalived.
Keefe D was a shot caller for the Southside Crips and the uncle of Orlando Anderson. It was determined that Keefe D had been in Las Vegas along with his nephew Orlando the night Tupac was shot. Additionally, Keefe D's name had come up in the original Biggie investigation when it was discovered that he was at the party at the Peterson and he had access to a Chevy Impala.
After Tupac was shot, there was rumors on the street that Bad Boy Records owed the Southside Crips $1 million.
After seizing Keefe D's vehicle and raiding his house for gang activity, this is when investigators would first try to question Keefe D if he had any involvement in Biggie's unaliving. And at this point in time, he really didn't talk, and he told them that they were barking.
I know she's not lying, because she had no reason to lie. First, she told me she saw somebody doing something to him, and she walked in and she thought, he didn't, he never said nothing. He didn't even acknowledge her. So she's thinking she's under the radar. Next thing, she's hanging out in Miami And, she comes back and says she don't know what happened and she woke up. And so,
What did she say she saw?
Someone giving him head.
Interview. Tupac's death is not the documentary's sole focus, as it also turns a critical eye toward Diddy's relationship with Biggie, prompting questions about how simple or authentic that bond really was. Voices close to both artists suggest the truth was far more layered than public images implied, exposing a complicated mix of loyalty, ambition, and underlying tension that defined one of hip-hop's most iconic and closely watched partnerships.